Hello and welcome to Unlocking AI for SMEs. My name is Rodo. I will be your host today. I'm Head of Innovation and Design at Rocket Van. We are a web and mobile app development company. And today we'll be learning how innovation and AI can boost your business. I'm just gonna do a bit of the agenda. We had a small technical problems and people they couldn't join. So we are supposed to have the introduction of IOD and ERP today, but it won't be possible. It will be recorded later, made by Joel, CEO of General Electric Company. And we'll jump straight away to digital innovation that I will be myself presenting. After that, my colleague Jafar will be digging into AI, specifically for small and medium-sized businesses. And if you have any questions, we'll ask after each session. But if we see that a lot of questions, we'll keep them at the end of the session. So I will just jump straight away to my presentation. So digital innovation. What's innovation? This complex formula, it's the one that Amazon is using internally. As you can see, it's a bit complex. They have lots of terms here that is not applicable for small businesses as we are. For my point of view, I think innovation is much simpler than that, and we'll be discovering on the next slides. Basically, is getting any workflow, any part of your business that it could be improved, make it make this changes and implementing new ways of doing things. I give you an example. Back in the 50s, everyone had a car. It was the moment everyone had an independent transportation, and they were using it for going to cinema or even going to restaurants. It was very, very popular back then, using the car to go and get served in the parking spaces. So actually what you see is the waitress. It was the way of serving people on the roller skaters and everything. So someone thought that wasn't efficient enough back then, and they thought that it could be it could be improved. So for that, they done some changes the way they were serving. So this is one of the restaurants. They try to do things differently and implement innovation using tech. It's not digital innovation itself, but it's tech. On that time factories, they were using conveyor belts and everything. So they were thinking, okay, let's organize the parking different way and let's put some conveyor belts so there is no need of a roller skater waitress coming and going, and it will be a unit that it will be on the rails, as you can see, where I can tick the boxes on the menu and asking for the things that I want to order, and also give the cash to pay. And this conveyor belt was coming and going to the restaurant, and I'm back and forth with even with the food and drinks. So it was a way to innovate. Obviously, after that, I don't think they were expanding worldwide on that system, because the proof is there. But they were very, very trying to do things differently. And I believe they had their success at some point. And obviously they were ahead on their time, because today this concept is used by the big brands in fast food industry. So the drive-through restaurants is kind of the same concept. You're being served and you're still sitting on your in your car. And the extent of that, the digital extension on this one, is the Uber Eats or Deliveroo, Just Eat. They actually delivering you your dinner at home or wherever you are. So that's how they use. So I think implementing innovation is a good example to show you. Innovation can be triggered internally or externally. Internally can be talking to your colleagues, your managers, or even the C-level, trying to understand which areas can be improved. And externally can be coming from your clients, your providers, your partners, even your competition can be triggering innovation in your business. These are much better, a much easier formula for rather than the one that we saw from Amazon. So it's simple. It's simpler to use. You have an idea, an assumption of something that needs to be improved. You use data, and data doesn't mean always numbers, but maybe copulating opinions, ways to do, and then test those assumptions and the new ways based on this data. After you test it, you implement it on your workflow, and this innovation needs to be iterating every time and see and improving it, measuring it. So this is a bit the way we see that innovation can be implemented. As we've seen before, an assumption, because innovation brings risk on the implementation. It's not always getting right, but it's very important to get this assumption of this problem is the right one to tackle first. That's why picking the right problem to solve, it's crucial in terms of innovating. Once we have contrasted with the data and we are sure we're shaping it, we're implementing it, and we're ready to go. Because today we're talking about digital innovation. This should be your toolbox today. Digital innovation, it's not it has a lot of components in it, but we can't see it. Those are the pillars. Obviously AI, that my colleague Jafar will be dipping into later, but in a nutshell, AI can give us insights from the data, can crunch this data in a speed and with a position that, for instance, an army of humans, they would take longer. IoT stands for Internet of Things. Those devices that they're talking to your data and gathering real-time data. So it's important to think that you can connect your cars, your fleet of cars, or your objects, your houses, your devices, and gather data. And this can be improving some of the processes that you want to measure. Obviously, cloud is something that we cannot exist as a digital innovation without it. It has been here for a long time and it will stay. All the data is sitting somewhere and distributed and shared. So we need to be aware also about the security, all the GDPRs and so on and so forth, but is one of the toolbox that digital innovation is sitting in. And mobile technology is, I think it has been 2 weeks or 10 days ago, I posted in my LinkedIn, just browse if you have occasion, the amount of devices that smartphones have replaced. So I think it's around 30 or plus or 30, so among alarms, clocks, or newspapers, tellies, radios, GPS, and navigators. So the amount of devices that we hold in our pockets today, and the computer power is amazing. So this can be used as well to create a solution for your innovation. Give you an example, because talking about how to and everything is easier to see it in a particular case. This is a client that we helped recently. It's a French company. They are specialized in fiber optic deployment. I'll give you a bit of context. France, when the first time that Macron came into power, his administration had a main aim of connecting all the major territory in terms of business and households using a fiber optic and high-speed internet. Today, I think there are 96% of the territory and nationwide is connected. But despite that, we think that network providers, fiber optic, all the data centers, they are very advanced, very innovative. The way they were using to implement and to deploy, it was very archaic. As you can see, they still were using whiteboards, reporting everything by picture because they need to picture out every single action, but they were zipping out in a unsecure zips and just sending over FTP or email. And obviously, the Swiss knife of any business is Excel. The spreadsheets, they are very good. They are very flexible, but they come into a limitation when you want to share or you have different actors on the line. So basically, the problem they had is every single participant on the deployment. So I give you a bit the structure is you have the network provider, like in that case is Orange, one of the biggest clients in France, and then you have the contractors that they are in charge to deploy in certain regions, and then you have the subcontractors, and down the line you have the small businesses, and then the line you have the engineers. So everyone needs to talk to each other, and most importantly, the data needs to sit somewhere. Even Orange, they don't know if a whole they have a problem because it's a pole where they need to get the line. They don't know if, and the reporting has been very complicated. So what we use is wireframing. One part of the technique of to see if there is a way to innovate a place is wireframe the idea. It's very common to using in software development. It's kind of a blueprint of what we're going to do. Very low specs, but it helps everyone that is involved into that change to formalize and it helps to collaborate. So basically is a rough way to picture what we intended to do. So what we were intending to do is to create a project manager system, very niche for the answering the problematics, and obviously for the technicians to hold in their smartphones a way to follow the project and making sure what was the next steps and reporting any problem they might have. So one of the tools that we use to wireframe, you can use anything, a napkin and a notepad, you can draw it, but you can use PowerPoint, for instance, if you are familiar with. It's just using basic tools to picturize a bit what you intended to do, if it's a software or even the schematic of what you intended to do. We're using also, in that particular case, what you see is Balsamiq. Balsamiq is a good software for wireframing, and they have components. So all the calendars, buttons, and everything, they're already done. So just drag and drop, and you're combining. It's very interesting. And then you have also the developing team, because they can see visually what you intended to do, and for them it's a better way, just rather than just planning what you intended to do. Figma is a bit more advanced, is more then down the line to the visual design, but you can also do interactivity, a bit a mock-up, even a small prototype. But I think anything that will be easy to picture out what you intended to do is better to start with, because you can reduce risk and costs because you started to play with something that is more tangible. The result was actually what is they're using today is a full platform that the contractors, subcontractors, and any intervening on the process, they can log in, see the projects, what is the progress, also if it's an incident, all the picture, all the information is there. The next step will be applying AI to crunch this data and do forecasting in case there is maintenance, or even deploying a different parts of the territory. the engineers and technicians, they have their own tool, as we were planning, and today is they're using everything, all the data, even for the fleet, the GPS tracking, all the incidents, even holidays, everything is happening there. So it became something that is very useful, and most importantly, everything is in one place, rather than being spread all the information. Previous example was a big innovation implementation, because we had to change the way of doing things. I'll give you another example, very simple. It was just for a particular problem. COFAS is a debt collection, international debt collection company. They do insurance, credit insurance, and one of their services is debt collection. So they used to operate also with Excel file, where each country, they had the ratios of the fees they're going to apply. They had different threshold in terms of how much you're going to charge per case and everything. So imagine that you're a business, you have an unpaid invoice, and you need to engage with them. Before, you had to call them. They would take this spreadsheet, the agent will go through and see how much it would be the fee and everything. So we use simple e-commerce techniques to drive this audience that they didn't want to spend time on the phone, and just checking quickly and giving them the information for remarketing purposes. And at the end, as you can see, it's a button like you buy now. You start placing your case. So it means that you've done all the you put in all the data. You can visually see how much you can recover, and if you are happy, you need just to play. So it's kind of a checkout button. So again, your innovation can be the whole system needs to be changed, or maybe it's a part of what your operating ways. It can be improved. So it's just understanding where you stand and what you need to do and how to improve it. To wrap it up a bit, digital innovation for your business is not about technology. It's very important. Obviously, we have the digital part because that's what we are specialized on that. But it's about change your behavioral and understanding and seeing different points of view of doing things. Obviously, it is a meaningful change. It needs to trigger this one. If not, it's not just applying blockchain because we like blockchain word. It might not be applicable on your business. So it needs to be meaningful. Obviously, customer experience, as any business leader, we know that is key. So what if you could improve them? So dramatically, you will get some benefits from it. We know, I think, is optimizing operational efficiency is the key of any business. You want to optimize your time, because time is money, and we know that. So you can do it better in less time. That's the perfect world. And obviously, as you do that, you reduce costs. So applying innovation, it's one of the key things. This is the perfect world, and the good news. But the bad news is it can happen. You can crash. Innovation means risk. They are all together, intertwined. So it's a possibility that your assumption was wrong, and the execution was wrong. Lots of things on the line. So we have different techniques like interviews, wireframing. It's very important to get it right. I mean, the choose of technology, everything, to make it sure that you are on the right path, even agile techniques and everything. But you need to be aware that it means risk. It's something risky. But at the end of the journey, what you want is to get successful. So I'm always inviting you to review what you're doing, and making sure that you trigger this innovation. And obviously, if you're using digital innovation, it will be triggered faster, much faster. Well, I gonna hand it to Jafar, my colleague, that he will be digging in to AI for SMEs. Jafar, I leave it to you.
Oh, thank you very much, Rudo. Allow me to share my screen first. So my name is Jafar Al-Musaid. I am a co-founder and CTO of a startup called RickSmart. RickSmart is a PropTech marketplace that will connect property buyers, property sellers, and service providers all under one place. And obviously, we use AI in different parts of the process, including the first part, which is the property valuation. So AI is something is nothing new, really. We have been hearing about it maybe since the Terminator movie during the late 80s and early 90s. And I remember back then how fascinated I was with how intelligent the robots and capable they were. But in reality, AI did not quite work that well, and for reasons, obviously. And in the next few minutes, we'll be exploring why AI did not work that well and what has changed recently, why AI is back to the scene. And to start with, if you look at this diagram here, that's how AI was generally before July 2017. And if you look at the diagram here, this is a typical generative AI model. By generative, I mean this is the AI that accepts a sentence, for example, and it spits out the next word. It predicts the next word in the conversation. So you have the input layer, that's the input, obviously, and you have a bunch of hidden layers, and then the output layer is just one word, the next word. And what's interesting here is the back arrows that you can see on the diagram. So you have a sense that something has to finish before something else has to start, because this introduces a dependency. So the input depends on the output, in this case within the same layer. That's actually why they call this recurrent neural network. And before 2017, variants of this RNNs, the recurrent neural networks, were actually kind of state of the art. Now, the problem is because of this dependency, it doesn't matter how many servers, how many accelerators, how many GPUs you might have, you can't use them. You can only use one because this part of the process is sequential, unfortunately. And because of this impacted performance, and obviously, as a result, data scientists had to kind of make the models smaller in size. By size, I mean fewer parameters. You see all the circles here in the diagram, they represent parameters. It means the models were less capable, if you will. They also had to narrow the scope. So you have a model that specializes in, for example, financial conversation. Another model is specialized in socials, in cooking, and so on and so forth. So you couldn't have a model that can't very well handle any types of conversations. This has changed since July 2017. And what you see in this diagram, I know it's very complex. I'm not going to go through it, but this is a new way of building AI models. And what we are interested in is that there are no back arrows in this case. So there's no dependency, there's no serialization, which means if you have 100 servers, 100 GPUs, 1,000 accelerators, you can actually use at least most of them, if not all of them, to train a model, which means now we can train models much, much, much faster than before, which creates new opportunities. Now we can make models a lot bigger. And because they are a lot bigger, they can be trained with more data, more generic data. So you don't have to have that kind of very specific narrow AI. This is called the transformer. So this is something, actually, if you are interested in, it's something Google came up with. It was a research paper. So they were trying to work around the limitations of the previous AI models. They are in recurrent neural networks, so they come up with this, what they call the transformers model. This was hugely successful, and everybody knows ChatGPT, or OpenAI ChatGPT, is actually based on this type of AI, not the previous one. There are some challenges, at least to SMEs. I mean, to train these large models, you need hardware, of course, and in this case, a lot of hardware. And what you see here is NVIDIA is a company that makes hardware, AI accelerators. So this is their flagship accelerator, the H100. If you look at the price tag of this one, you can see it's not very SMEs friendly, the least to say. It's quite expensive, and that's just the price of one of these. The company is set to sell, I think, over 500,000 this year, and they also consume a lot of power, so much power, about 700 watts each. So combined, this model alone is going to consume almost 400 megawatt of power just to train some models. Obviously, this is way beyond any SME. But it's not all doom and gloom. Fortunately, there are good news. SMEs can still take advantage of these large models through two ways. I mean, the first way is to use API. So companies like OpenAI and others, they provide what I call AI as a service, essentially. So all you have to do is just subscribe to their service. They will give you some keys, not physical keys, obviously, kind of passwords. So from your system, you can send requests, you can send a customer query, for example, and you get the answer and present that to the customer. So this is very simple, straightforward. I think most web developers are familiar with working with APIs. There is another option as well, which is to take one of these pre-trained models and use them internally. There is a website called, I believe, Hugging Face. And if you visit that website, you'll see there are thousands and thousands of pre-trained models. It's good that many organizations take the headache and bear the cost of training these large models, and they share them. There's some kind of competition, if you will. Everybody wants to show that their models are better than the others. And for us, the good news is we can always use these models for free. Well, we can download them for free, at least. Of course, now there are two approaches, so let's dig a little bit deeper into each. So using API, so using services from companies like OpenAI, it means the initial cost is very low. You subscribe, you pay very little, I guess, to get these API keys, and then you can start to use the service very quickly. It's very fast to deploy, and it's also very simple to deploy. You don't need data scientists to do this for you. There are caveats, unfortunately, because the more you use, the more you have to pay, obviously. So because these are API calls. So if your type of business is the one that generates kind of queries to customers for free, maybe to attract visitors to your website, keep in mind, these free visitors, free customers are going to cost you a lot of money, because the more queries they send through your website, well, the more you have to pay to OpenAI or whoever your service provider. They are inflexible, means if that's an API, you use it the way it is. There is very little you can change, which means everyone is using the same API, so there is hardly any competitive advantage. Just use it because everyone else is doing this. And more importantly, I think, is privacy challenges, because if you need to deal with sensitive customer queries, for example, I mean, this information needs to be transmitted to third party. I believe they are probably in the United States, so maybe customer information are transmitted, stored temporarily, and processed by third parties. This creates a lot of privacy challenges at the very least. The other option is to use some pre-trained models, which means you go to Hugging Face or other websites, download a pre-trained model and host it in your own servers, or it could be on the cloud, but a cloud that you own and you control. So there are no third parties that will receive and process the data. What does this give you? Obviously, because you have downloaded the models, now you can do stuff with it. First, you can feed it with your customer data. That's an advantage. And also you can fine tune the model. So you take a pre-trained model, you don't need a huge amount of resources. So fine tuning is mean you train the model just with the data set that you have internally, just to make it more customized, more tailored to your customer needs. It's obviously privacy friendly because, as we said, the customer data does not need to be shared with third parties. The downside is obviously there is higher initial cost, which means you need to have the hardware and the resources to host these models. They're big, so if you want to host a bigger model, obviously you need to have a bunch of servers, and you need to have someone who can do that. This is not simple. This is not web development task. This is more data, machine learning engineering. So you need to have the expertise in-house actually to do this, or you need to hire some consultants to do this work. Of course, there are pros and cons to each approach, and there is no perfect solution. It's part of life. So how do compare and contrast the two approaches, using API or using a pre-trained model? I think there are two things in my mind. The competitive advantage is the first one, is you need to ask yourself, is AI something really critical to your business? Or is it just a box you need to tick to impress customers and investors, maybe? Or because everyone is using AI and ChatGPT, so you don't want to appear backdated or old-fashioned. If this is the case, then probably it's just easier to use an API. The other thing is, I think, is privacy. So if part of your service is you need to, let's say, answer customer queries, which are specific to each customer, means their data need to be part of the query, then I think APIs is pretty much not an option, or it's going to be very challenging at the very least. So you are likely probably want to use a pre-trained model hosted in your systems, on your servers, whether on-prem or on the cloud, retrain it, fine-tune it, and just make it your own, really. Just to recap, as AI has really transformed since July 2017, thanks to the research paper from Google team, which made it public. Everybody can just go and read it. NVIDIA is making the hardware. Obviously, there are other companies that are also making AI accelerators, but I would say NVIDIA is way more mature, and they were prepared for this to happen. So when it happens, they were there immediately to provide the necessary resources. Of course, training large models is prohibitively expensive to most, if not SMEs, but the good news is you can always have access to these large models either via APIs, or perhaps you can just download a pre-trained model for free and host it internally. There are pros and cons to both approaches, so it all depends on how privacy is important to your business and how genuinely you need AI to be part of your work.